Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and it's Marcus Rashford. Here we go to Barcelona, and Manchester United, here we slow against Leeds. It was dull, wasn't it? Lots of work to do for Ruben Amorim. We'll delve into the reaction to that 0-0 draw against Leeds in a moment, because there's a few big issues that need to be spoken about there. How does this midfield work with Bruno in it? What are we actually going to do to score goals? And why are we still so very boring to watch? It is only pre-season, but it's a very important pre-season. But we're going to start off with Marcus Rashford. And look, ultimately, it might be the reality that we need. Rashford leaving Manchester United's really good news, but the work starts here. We're not going to be, just because we bought in Mbeumo and Cunha and we sold Rashford, or we moved Rashford out, we've still got loads to do. There's no quick fix here. The reality is we're in a really bad situation. But it was written in the stars, I suppose. Our first pre-season game, we're excited about it. We're waiting for it. We're watching it. And whilst it's going on, Rashford's dominating the news with "Here we goes" and Ornstein bombers. It's you couldn't write it, really. The distraction, the noise was Rashford. He was the highlight of the game and he wasn't even there. What a quick move on this. I want to shout out Matteo Moretto, by the way. He retweeted his original post from 10 days ago this morning talking about Barcelona and Rashford. And then a couple of hours later, Ornstein there is dropping the development. So obviously something was going on this morning, and it was confirmed at lunchtime that Barcelona are finalising this deal for Marcus Rashford. There is no money changing hands. Manchester United won't receive any money. There is no loan fee. When Sancho went to Dortmund, we got 5 million. It's normal to get a loan fee. There is nothing going to Manchester United, but we don't pay any wages. So he's taking a wage cut. Barcelona are covering full wages. We don't know what Rashford's on. He won't be on 300k by the sound of it. So we're going to save his wage for a year, basically. But in a year's time, he's still a Manchester United player. So hopefully this loan is going to be a good loan, because otherwise he'd be back next summer again. It's a great move for him. I think it's a great move for Barcelona. And it's good for Manchester United that Rashford is now not a problem for a year. But there are honesties to that deal that we didn't know with Sancho. We thought Sancho was an obligation to buy. It wasn't. This is not an obligation to buy. This is an option to buy. Barcelona don't have to buy him. They can send him back. So this is a straight loan for a year with an option to buy him for 30 million. Apparently we wanted 43. It's a 30 million. Now that sounds cheap, but he will have lost a year off his contract as well. So there's an option to buy for £30 million next summer. And there's an option not to buy, of course, with an option to buy. We will not be paying his wages for the next season. And we're not going to get a loan fee. My honest thoughts is that it will split people. Some people will be really happy about it. Some people will be really annoyed by it. I'm going to be consistent and say at the end of June, I said just loan him to Barcelona, because that's what's going to happen anyway. Waiting until the end of August, wasting time, thinking we're going to sell him. I actually think this has worked out really well. Well, it's not worked out well. It's worked out as best. We've salvaged the situation that's not great. He's going to go to Barcelona. He's not going to go anywhere else. You're not going to get a transfer fee. You're going to loan him, and we've loaned him. And if we'd waited till the end of August, we'd have had all the noise, every interview, all the bloody training, and this, that, and the other. So it's not great, but it was never going to be great. We were never going to get a fee, because we always wanted to go to Barcelona, and I don't think anyone else is going to give us a fee. So ultimately, I see it as a good thing. I wish him well at Barcelona. I hope he does well at Barcelona, because I don't really see the point in wishing him not to do well, especially when he's still a Man United player technically anyway, and we do need him to get sold next summer. So him scoring goals and doing well, and there's no reason why he can't. I think he will do well in that league. Anthony did well in that league at Betis. Rashford's going to Barcelona, so I think he's got a great opportunity to do well, and you know, force himself into the World Cup plans for England. So yeah, good. I think it's good, and hopefully we'll start to see other people going as well. I mean, Jadon Sancho should follow suit soon. Hopefully Garnacho will follow suit soon. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. I think it's a good thing, and we've just got to move and salvage these things. Great move for Rashford, but financially bad for us, says Narnbread. I think it was always going to be. Shaw, Bruno, Casemiro, a long overdue stay, says JB. We'll talk about them now. Rashford's option to buy value, 35 million euros. If he performs, that's a steal for Barca, which is 30 million pounds. Jabba, yes. Rashford to Barca, no wage drop, and we watched that, says Robert McCormack. The Bruno-Casemiro pairing is a huge concern if it's our starting midfield too, says Noah. Okay, let's talk about the game. So Man United have just lost, Manchester United have just drawn 0-0 with Leeds in their first pre-season game. The first thing and the most important thing to say is that it's the first pre-season game. If you lose 4-0, if you win 4-0, the reaction would be big, and you could call it an overreaction. We've drawn 0-0. So whatever result happens, it's not worth overreacting to. However, I do want to say this at the very start, because I have been saying it for a couple of weeks and I'm going to keep saying it. I want Amorim to do well. And I think majority of the fan base does. So I'm talking to the majority of the fan base. Last season, one of the big defending points we had for Amorim was he hasn't had a pre-season. And it was a valid point. He hasn't had a pre-season. He just lost to Bournemouth. He hasn't had a pre-season. We all said that. Now, we're in pre-season, and I'm seeing people go, it doesn't matter, it's only pre-season. And I'm like, we can't be hypocrites. It's either important or it's an exhibition. And it's important. This manager plays a system these players can't play. That was proved last year. So his pre-season is to get these players to play that system. It's really important. People who are going, it's only pre-season, it's not that deep. It's really deep. It's really deep. It's really important. And I think Amorim tonight will be a bit worried, because what I saw today was basically every game I saw last year. And this is why this transfer window, many of you, and I include myself in that, as I drown on my own saliva, that's weird. And I would include myself in that. The reason I've been getting a bit annoyed and stressed with this transfer window is last season we finished 15th and we lost the Europa League final with these players. Amorim said it's the worst Man United Premier League side, and Sir Jim said in March Amorim's doing a good job considering the squad he's got. But he's still got that squad. We've made one signing and no sales. So he's still got the same players. So what we're basically doing is polishing a turd. What we're saying is these players can't play the system, but because they've had a bit of salad and been on a treadmill and it's a new season, they can suddenly do it. And what I saw today was some players look like they're going to develop. Yoro, Dorgu, Cunha as a new signing, maybe a couple of others. But some players still look like they can't play the system. And that's a big issue. And that would be my message to Sir Jim Ratcliffe, would be, you're giving this manager the same set of players as last year with Cunha and Mbeumo, and it's not enough. It's not enough. There is too much work to do, and there are too many issues, and they're very, very clear. This 3-4-3 is too defensive. We don't create enough chances, and the midfield is wide open. That is a clientele issue. Like, I'm sure if Amorim could get Younglearn or other players and bring them into that midfield, he would. But he can't. So I still think we've got a problem with a lot of them. I mean, look, Luke Shaw was rubbish in the first half. I don't think he's going to be starting games. I think Heaven looks better than him. But defensively, we look okay, but it's too much of a defensive system for me. So I think the system. I had 3 things before the game, didn't I? I wrote them down. I want to see the system working better. I want to see us creating chances, and I want us to see us play good football. And I know it's only the first game of pre-season, but to everybody who's saying it's only pre-season, it's really important. Like, if you're Arsenal, you can probably say it's only pre-season because you know your system, you know most of your team. This is a brand new system where we've got to make a stride, and we have to show that in pre-season because our first game is Arsenal. We can't just go, it's pre-season, it's pre-season, it's pre-season. We need to see improvement. And today, as a collective team, I didn't see any improvement. I saw some individualism. I thought Cunha looked good, like I say, and a couple of others did. But as a system and as a team, I didn't see anything from last season that was any better. So there's a lot of work to do, and I think it's not necessarily a bad thing. to have a game like that, first off, because it's a reminder of how much you need to do. Because when you think about it, if we'd have gone and won that game 3-0, all the people who were going, Casemiro looks lean. Oh, winning team photos. Oh, we're looking very lean. They'd have been going mad, going, oh, it's all just because they're lean. Like, they're still the same players. There's a lot of work to do, and I still think there's a lot of work to do in the transfer window. Got to learn to walk before we run, says Chris. I've been a member for 6 years and 3 months, been watching for over 9 years. I really hope we get a new number 9, says Sean. Victoria says, Mark, please can you stop supporting Bruno Fernandes? He's a shocking midfielder, gives the ball away countless times, bad positional sense, bad passing. Casemiro's is finished, along with Shaw. Stop focusing on the wrong transfers. You need to scream that we need a new midfield, says Victoria. Teddy Sheringham now looking like a right prat, says Danny. Less physical league, he'll do well and will sell in relation to Rashford, says Mario Franco. Great move for Rashi, says Narnbread. Victoria is making a point about the midfield. Okay, well, it was on my list anyway, so I will talk about it. Time and time again in the first half, the midfield was exposed. And I have said this for a long time, and it happened last season, and it could happen again. On the sale of Bruno, I'd like to talk about it less, but we all know it will get spoken about after games like this. We could have took £100 million for a player that's not a midfielder. If you're going to keep Bruno, play him as a 10, and we're sticking him in the midfield, and I don't think he can do it. I'm not saying he can do a job, but I don't think he can do it to the level we need. So Ruben Amorim is going to get analysed for that if it goes wrong, because he made a big call. And I don't know whether he made the right call. We'll have to wait and see. But Bruno and Casemiro as a midfield, if they're going to struggle against Leeds, what's going to happen against the top half of the table? So, look, Casemiro is looking lean, but he ain't quick anymore. He ain't got the legs. And Bruno is too positionally indisciplined. He can't stick in a role because he wants to be involved. And that is why Leeds were getting so much space in the midfield. So, as a midfield 2, that really does worry me. It worries me a lot. But it seems to be the plan. I mean, he used Collier as a number 10 rather than put Bruno as a 10 and Collier in his natural position. So I am worried about the midfield, and I think it's going to be a watching brief on that. I don't think that anybody can sit here and say it's not a concern. As for buying a midfielder, I don't see it happening, because buying a midfielder would mean benching Bruno, which we're just not going to do. So I think that I don't see him playing Ugarte and Mainu. I think Bruno will stay and play. Like, Bruno's going to play, isn't he? And I think another thing I would say is, if Mbeumo and Ahmad and Cunha are going to fight for the number 10 positions, where's Mount going to go? Where's Xerxes going to go? Bruno's going to have to go in the midfield. So he's going to play in the midfield. And I worry. I don't want to go into the season saying this because it's negative, but I worry about Bruno Fernandes in that midfield. I just don't think it's going to work. And if it does work, then Amorim is going to deserve huge praise, and I'll be the first one to give it. But I don't think it's going to work. If Bruno Fernandes was playing as the number 10, fine, let's move. But he's in the midfield with Casemiro. I said this about Casemiro as well, to share the load. In the Europa League last season, he was brilliant. That ball to Maguire that got us through against Lyon was amazing. But all his good games came in the Europa League. And Spurs and Man United were shit in the Premier League, and they got to the final of the Europa League. There is a direct correlation between the Europa League being slower and not as good as the Premier League, because that's why Spurs and Man United were so shit. And Casemiro played well in the Europa League, but in the Premier League he struggles. It's too quick for him, and I think it's going to be too quick for him again. But one thing I would say positively is I really do think Amorim's a good coach, and I don't think he cannot see what you see. I don't think Amorim can be sat there going, I know the Premier League better than millions of United fans who've been watching it for years. I know the Premier League better than them, and Casemiro and Bruno will be fine. Surely he figures that out, because what we need in that midfield is some speed. What we need is some tenacity. And then I think the system becomes better. Because we're bypassing the midfield as well. As in the first half, the gap between the defence and the attack was absolutely huge, which encourages the long ball to a 17-year-old. Cunha needs the ball into feet as well. So I think that there's a lot of work to be done. And we need to start moving quick. I'm actually quite encouraged by the games we've got to come, though. Bournemouth play a very distinctive style of football. It's very energetic. That'll be a test. And then Everton under Moyes and will be physical. And West Ham under Potter will be physical and technical. But they're all winnable games. So I think they're good games for us because they're basically bottom half of the league table. I mean, Leeds are going to be bottom half of the table. And I think this year Bournemouth probably will, West Ham will, and Everton will. So, yeah, I think they're all good games for us. But we've got 0-0 in pre-season's a bit shit, really. I feel sorry for the fans who have to watch that because you'd rather have a 4-4 draw than a 0-0. But it wasn't entertaining. We're struggling with the system and we're not good to watch. And that's no different from last season. So it is the first game of pre-season. We've only been training for 2 weeks. We've got Mbeumo to come in. But my bottom line would be lots of work to do. And it's probably a reality bite for the players, for the manager, and some fans who were lost in the, fantasy of being back. Some of us weren't lost in it. Some of us know that Europa League final wasn't that long ago. Some of us know that Premier League season was a blink of an eye ago. But it seemed to be the last 2 weeks, sweep it under the carpet. We're back. Winning team photos, lean pictures, new kits. Everybody's smiling. And many of you, quite rightly, were saying, nothing's actually changed. We're just straight, but we're trying to pretend that everything's good. And maybe some of the players fell into that trap, but they will know tonight you are right back where you were a few weeks ago. Not good enough, struggling, and huge amount of work needs to be done. Huge amount of work. And it can be done, but there is a lot of work to be done. Man Mark, you're correct, but then Amorim is the wrong manager. We are watching our club literally unable to string 3 passes together without losing the ball. It honestly breaks my heart. We could have bought Stiller and Rios. Size is Victoria. I think you make a good point about stringing 3 passes together because we spoke about this last season. The football IQ is so low in that team and we don't need to individualise it. We can't play simple passes. We can't create simple chances. We don't do simple marking movements. So all of those things are very, very relevant. But I would say it's the same squad as last season. So don't individualise it. Last season, Rashford wasn't here for the last 6 months. Sancho certainly wasn't. Anthony wasn't. And Malacia wasn't. Garnacho is the only one of 5 players that's being sold that was playing last season towards the end when we were shit. So all the players that were shit last season are still here, apart from Garnacho. And all those players were quite rightly called out. Not all of them, but a lot of those players were called out for low IQ and all the things you're just saying there. It's the same players again. I said it a couple of weeks ago. That Europa League final, Garnacho didn't even start. So all the 5 players were moving on, didn't even start the Europa League final. None of those players have been moved on. There has been no accountability for that final at all. And that final wasn't just one game. That was the conclusion of a load of games. We have not cleared house on players responsible for last season. We haven't. And a lot of them are still here. So I would expect what you're basically saying is Ruben Amorim has got to take the same players from last season and turn them into good players in the space of a month. They're not going to do it. We're not going to ping the ball around nicely. We're not going to play brilliant football because they can't do it. So he needs new players. And we come back to the same thing. Has Amorim been backed in this transfer window? Absolutely not. Why did we bring a manager in that plays a completely different system to what we play and not back him? He has not been backed in this window. And it surprises me that we've got people online and in our chat saying, clearly the manager's got to go, he's not good enough. He's using the same players as last year. This is not backing a manager. This is not backing a manager at all. He needed minimum 6. Right through the spine. Goalkeeper, striker, midfielders, number 10s, and probably a wing back. He's got one number 10, and Mbeumo's about to sign. I don't know why we've bought 2 number 10s, by the way. I actually don't know. I like Mbeumo and I like Cunha, but they're not priority positions. Like, we should have sold Mason Mount. What's the fucking point in £55 million Mason Mount? Where's he going to get into this team? What is the point in Mason Mount? I'm not saying he's shit, but what's the point? You've bought Mbeumo and Cunha. You've got Ahmad who can play that role. You've got Bruno who can play that role. You've got Xerxes who can play that role. And now you've got Mount who can play that role. So we've got 6 number 10s. I don't know why we went for Mbeumo and Cunha first when we're well stacked in that position. Definitely need a striker. Definitely need a midfielder. And definitely need a goalkeeper. And that, to me, would be 5 signings. Minimum, that's what I expected for Amorim. He's got 2. And they're in the wrong priority. There's a lot of work to be done. I'm not losing it. I'm not saying we're going to have a bad season. I'm not saying we can't have a good season. I thought Cunha looked good. I thought Dorgu looked good. There was a couple of other players as well. And Mbeumo's got to come in. We should get better the more games we play, the longer he trains them. We're only 2 weeks into pre-season as well. Some players have only been back a week. There is still a lot of improvement that can happen and needs to happen. But I think where we are after today, it should wake a lot of people up to we are definitely going to have to do a hell of a lot from this point, because there is a huge, huge issue. This system that the manager plays, these players are really struggling with it still. So do the thing that needs to be done. Stop trying to polish a turd and whack square pegs into round holes and start giving him players that actually can do it. JB says, this is on Amorim next season, either good or sacked. Well, I disagree for what I've just said there. If you're going to give him the same players, you may as well sack him. If you're going to give him 5 or 6 players, let's get this party started. Let's start working. Bring in Guerra as legs for Bruno, not pricey, says Thomas. I really believe a midfielder is more important than a knight. Today, yesterday I'd have said a goalkeeper and a striker are the biggest priorities beyond even Cunha and Mbeumo. Today, I think the midfield is the most important area on the pitch, and I would completely agree with you. It's a huge area of concern at the moment. I really believe a midfielder is, and the biggest concern is that maybe Mainu and Agate could work. Maybe Kone could work. Maybe we don't need a midfielder. Maybe we've got the midfielders that can work. But when 50% of your midfield is going to be Bruno, that's a worry, because we will never see Mainu and Agate. We will never see Kone and Mainu. We won't. It will always be Bruno and one other, and that concerns me. Not because I don't like Bruno, but I think he's out of position. I really believe a midfielder is more important than a 9. That was from G. Why couldn't we use Mbeumo, Bruno and Cunha as fluid front 3 like PSG do with Dewey, Dembele and Kvaratskhelia? Do you think if you only played Bruno at 10, he'd start in front of Cunha or Mbeumo? Or is it maybe the whole concept more and more flexibility? Bruno can move to 10 and Mbeumo to the wing, says Nick. Nick makes a great point. The reason Amorim doesn't want to use Bruno as a 10, and we discussed this last year, he's not mobile enough. Amorim wants mobile number 10s, like quick, and Bruno's not quick enough. Bruno's best position is a number 10, but Amorim doesn't actually like him as a number 10 because he's not mobile enough. And so therefore he puts him in the midfield. So I don't think Amorim even wants... Look, Amorim's gone out and bought Cunha and Mbeumo. He clearly doesn't rate Bruno as a 10 in his system. So that's why he's playing him as an 8. Because if Bruno's as good a number 10 as I think he is and you think he is, he should be playing number 10 for Man United. But Amorim doesn't want to play him as a 10. He wants to play him out of position. So that shows you everything about what Amorim thinks of him as a 10. But this goes back to what I said, and I don't want to go back, but if you don't think he's good enough to play as a number 10 and he is a number 10, then you should have took 100 million quid for him. We need striker and midfielder who can carry the ball to front 3. Bruno, Agate, Casemiro can't run with the ball. We need Casido or Basuma, says Mohit. Baliba from Brighton would be good. Feels like deja vu every summer when it comes to transfers. Takes ages to complete a simple incoming. Can't sell players. End up loaning instead, says Sean. And that is why, Sean, today, people are going to start to understand why we've been moaning about pre-season. Because we saw Cunha play today. And you can see, although it wasn't perfect, new signing makes a difference right at the start of pre-season. We don't normally see that. Look at last year. Yoro got injured in his first game. Xerxes didn't go on the tour. Agate, Dalit and Mazraoui didn't go on the tour either. So what did we have on tour last year? A bunch of players that we ended up moving on, like McTominay and Wan-Bissaka, and a bunch of players that we hadn't signed yet, didn't go. So we're seeing it again. Great to see Cunha there, but we're using pre-season, this so important pre-season, and we haven't got the players in we need. Now, we might not get them in at all, but if we are going to get them in, they should have been in already, because it just shows you. We've just played a game where we looked very similar to last season. If we'd have had 5 new signings there today, I think it would have been a different game. But we haven't done that. So when Liverpool are playing their pre-season games, or Arsenal are playing their pre-season games, they've basically got everybody. All right, they haven't got Ekitike or Gyökeres yet, but they've basically got a lot of players. This is why we talk about the importance of pre-season and getting your players in. Because Amorim is playing and coaching games, and he hasn't got the players. And we've let him down. Now, he might not get those players at all, and then he's really been let down, but they still should be here now. It's really important, and messed up. Paul says, unless Amorim changes his system or realises Bruno won't work in the midfield, we could be in for a very difficult season. He's not going to change his system, Paul. You're right, and he shouldn't change his system. But he could change the pathway. But well, he's not going to move Bruno either, is he? Yeah, you make a good point. It's going to be an interesting season. 100 million from Bruno could have got us Edison, a striker and a goalkeeper, says JB. Feels like we're delaying the inevitable, says Turno. We aren't bringing in players in midfield for how he wants to play. Bad to watch. Amorim needs to figure it out, says Sean. We can't just expect to call on Maguire and Dalit all season. We'll have injuries. Can we rely on Yoro in heaven? Obviously, Martinez back as well, says Shawnee. I think, I said it last season, our centre-back situation is fine as long as we don't get injuries. I think Mazraoui, Dalit, Maguire, Yoro, Martinez, Heaven, they're all reliable. And in a 3 centre-back system, we don't actually concede that many chances. That's the least of my concerns. I wouldn't even say we need to buy a centre-back. We need midfield, we need goalkeeper, we need striker, and we probably need wing-backs, to be honest. We're crying out for a change of formation, says Kalen. Imagine a 4-3-3 with Cunha and Mbeumo and Rashford with Bruno at cam, and then go and sign a Belieber. I don't see the Amorim vision. He'll be gone by Christmas, says Kalen. Well, you don't see the vision because they haven't backed him. And if they're not going to back him, they may as well sack him. And I know that sounds very blunt, but I like Amorim. But there's no point bringing him in if you're not going to change the team. And we haven't changed the team yet. I'm bored of saying it. When we brought him in November, I was happily shocked because I thought we're going to have to spend $500 million on this team very, very quickly. And we haven't done it. How is it that us fans with less knowledge than Amorim can see that Bruno and Casemiro won't work, but he doesn't see it? It is obvious. But Louis van Gaal didn't see things. Ten Hag didn't see things. Solskjaer didn't see things. David Moyes didn't see things. It's not unusual for fans who watch a club week in, week out, year in, year out, to see things that managers don't. You dismiss your intelligence. You dismiss the time and analysis that you put into football. You belittle yourself against people who probably haven't watched Man United. Has Amorim watched Man United every game for the last 5 years? No, you have. So you probably have got a better understanding of Manchester United in the Premier League than Amorim. He's a better coach than you, but you probably understand what is needed in Man United's midfield in the Premier League more than he does. But he needs to figure that out very, very quickly, because I would agree with you and I would say, having watched the Premier League my whole life and watched lots of other Premier League games on That's Football with many of you, a midfield of Bruno and Casemiro terrifies me. Absolutely terrifies me. And if that's the plan, we need to be scoring 4 or 5 goals a game because we're going to concede goals at the other end. And we don't look like we're going to score 4 or 5 goals a game. So we can play Bruno and Casemiro in the midfield if we're scoring 3 or 4 goals a game. Because if you concede 2 or 3, you still might win. But you can't play them in the midfield if we're not going to score a lot of goals. Mark, Amorim downfall will be Bruno, says Emmanuel. Look, honestly, it's too early. I'm not stressed. I'm not concerned. My concerns I've had, and I've stated here, are the same concerns I've had last week, the week before, the week before that, the month before that. All these things we're talking about are exactly the same things we were talking about in March. The pre-season need to master this system, create chances and play good football. That's true today as it was 3 months ago. Bruno in the midfield worries me. Been saying it for a long time. Casemiro in the midfield worries me because I don't think he's got the legs for the Premier League. Been saying it for a long time. The transfer window needed to have 5, 6 new signings in now. We haven't done it. So all these things they're not new. It's not like in the past where we lose 7-0 to Liverpool and you're losing your shit because it's all new. This is not new. All these problems are not worth shouting and falling out about because we've been talking about them for months. Amorim can prove us wrong on Bruno in the midfield, and I hope he does. Sir Jim can prove us wrong by getting 3 or 4 more players in ASAP. I hope he does. And over the next few weeks, we can get better in pre-season and start mastering this system, playing good football and scoring goals. All those things can happen. Am I convinced they will happen? Skepticism and history makes me think it won't. But we still have got time. But, you know, there's a player called Richard Rios who I'd take a punt on. I would. I don't know why no Premier League clubs are on. I would take a punt on him. But to do that, you'd have to take Bruno out of the number 8, and I don't think he'll do it. Amorim, we suffered a little bit when we tried to press high. We have a lack of pace in the middle of the park. 100%. 100%. So hopefully he gets it. Hopefully he does. I'm convinced they're not going to back Amorim with this system, in which case this will be a pointless appointment. Says Steve, completely agree. Why don't we buy younger talents more in quantity? Says Taj. I can see Cunha or Mbeumo being a false 9 and the other is a 10 along with Bruno. Doubt we'll get a striker. Jamuki, I cannot see Bruno as a number 10 in this system. I don't think Amorim wants him as a number 10 in this system. Amorim's decision making is concerning, says Keel. I'm not Amorim out, but I need to see some proof of quality soon, says Marlowe. I would play 1 number 10, a sitting midfielder and 2 number 8s with, yeah, but you're changing the system then, Paul. He's not going to do that. Keeping Bruno will cost Amorim's job. Look, we're back at 8 o'clock. I look forward to that. Let's take a bit of a time out. Rashford's gone, which is a positive. And another positive is it's pre-season. We still have got a month until we play Arsenal. We've still got another 4 games to improve. I would rather get this game now than the week before Arsenal against Fiorentina. Let's see the problems for what they are. Rome was never going to get built in a day. We are still basically the same team as last year. They are still struggling with this system. We still need to get players in and we still need to do a lot of work. Let's hope everything we're rightly calling out gets resolved over the next few weeks. I'll see you at 8 o'clock. Thanks everyone for watching today. Great to be back doing watch-alongs. Make sure you subscribe to the channel on your way out, by the way, because we are only 100 away from 122,000. So thank you everybody for that. And I will see you at 8 o'clock tonight. Lots of work to do. Let's get on with doing it. Thanks for watching.